Hello and welcome to another video and podcast on fantasyfootballscout.co.uk. My name is David and today we're going to have another look at how my team got on in Game Week 3. And apologies in advance because I did actually have quite a good Game Week and I know there's a lot of people out there who had a more challenging one. But there's definitely glimmers of hope for all FPL managers in the story of how my team got on in Game Week 3 and how I'm planning to move into Game Week 4. And so stay tuned, even if the overall rank on the screen is something that might feel discouraging. Don't worry, because it doesn't take very much to get to this particular overall rank at this stage of the season, which you'll find out in just a second. So use that as an opportunity to tell yourself, you know what, I'm only a couple of moves away from having a rank that I'm really happy with at this early stage of the season. Now, as ever, I'm going to show you some tables from the Fantasy Football Scout members area as part of this video. So just a quick little reminder, for those of you who haven't sorted out your membership for Game Week 4, do sign up now because you can still save up to 30% on those preseason prices and you're going to get so much good stuff. Not only will you get access to all those tables that you're going to see shortly, comparison tools, heat maps, shop maps, etc. And of course, transfer planners, season points projections, etc. So do get yourself ready for Game Week 4. But yes, my team in Game Week 3, it was a very good one. But to be honest, it actually started on a largely discouraging note. And this is what I mean about don't get too discouraged too quickly in FPL this season because you're only a couple of guys getting some big points away from being able to get into a good position. So I went into Game Week 3 ranked around 366,000 overall rank, which I was quite happy with after 2 game weeks. And most people I had 2 free transfers. They didn't really want to use both of them. And so in the end, those of you watching the deadline stream on Friday will know that I've been toying with perhaps maybe leaving the main 11 as it was, keeping Salah, for example, holding Rashford and Pedro, etc., and using my free transfer to simply upgrade Gabriel to someone on my bench who might be more useful in the future. Now, I was spared some blushes there because my plan had actually been to do Gabriel to Botman and then simply bench Botman ready for when Newcastle's fixtures turn. It's a good job I didn't do that because, of course, he's got this injury now. Do keep an eye on the updates on that one. And so with a little bit of help from Sam and some people in the chat, so thank you very much for that, I did the transfer of Salah into Foden, which on Saturday left me feeling, or rather on Sunday, left me feeling a little bit like, oh no, Foden's not in the team. It was deeply frustrating. And so what happened for me on Saturday was I actually dropped about 150,000 places, even though I got something out of Rashford, and I was down to about 540,000 overall rank. And I was a bit discouraged by that. I felt that I could have done better on Saturday than I did. But then I went into Sunday and things only, got worse, in inverted commas, of course, with Foden not involved. And what had happened was, actually, interestingly enough, was that Anderson had got me 11 points on my bench for that goal he scored against Brentford. He gets maximum bonus quite a lot of the time whenever he achieves anything because his BPS skills are just so good. Have a look at the members area to understand why. And so, actually, Foden not playing initially I was just torn. I was like, I really felt Foden would do something, but actually he's on the bench, so if he can just stay there, I'll get the 11 points for Anderson. Of course, Sheffield United then got the goal, and Anderson got blocked because Foden was very much forced onto the field of play for Man City. So that was frustrating. As I said, all of these things are frustrating, but if it wasn't for Matty Cash and Moussa Diaby, 17 points and 12 points respectively, I wouldn't be sat at 19k overall. And I jumped from 540k to 19k just from 2 guys popping off. And so that's my message to you guys out there. If you're a little bit discouraged at your rank right now, it can change at the drop of a hat. It can change at just a goal being scored. So do not be discouraged at all, because I was a little bit on Saturday and I was foolish to be that way. So do think about that as you're making your transfers this week. Now, this has been branded, obviously, as a team reveal. At the moment, it's still a bust team for myself. So I'll just... actually, do you know what I've not done? For the benefit of the podcast listeners, I've not actually listed off who was in my team for Game Week 3. 4 points for Flecken, 17 for Cash, 1 for Stupinan, 6 for Chilwell, 7 for Rashford, 2 for Mbermo, 12 for Diaby, 4 for Foden, 8 for Saka, 1 for Pedro, and 8 for Haaland as my captain. 3 for Turner on the bench. Of course, 0 for Gabriel because he didn't actually come on. 11 for Anderson, and 0 for Archer, who is now a Sheffield United player. So my team has gained a Sheffield United player without the need for a transfer. And so how I'm lined up for game week 4 at the moment, as I said, it is a bust team, so I've not made any transfers yet. The only tweak I've made is to put Cash on the bench, funnily enough, even after his heroics of game week 3, and replaced him with Anderson. My plan, many of you will know throughout this season, has been to rotate that third defender slot. Been very happy most of the time starting Estupiñán and Chilwell, for example, and then Anderson, Gabriel and Cash have now all had an opportunity to start a game week, or will have done by the time we get to game week 4, because I do think a home game against Wolves is an appealing one for Crystal Palace, and so far we've seen Anderson put up some big points in 2 of his first 3 matches and has already risen in price. So very happy to have had him since game week 1. That investment in the Palace defence is going well, and this is the week when I'm going to start him. Now, what am I going to do with my 2 free transfers? Because I still have them. I know there's a lot of other people out there who still have them as well. I felt that it was a good idea to only spend the 1, so that when I do eventually spend 2, perhaps 3 transfers for a -4, I'm in a position where I'm leaning on more data to actually make that large change in the team. A couple of things I was looking out for was how Chelsea got on against Luton. I've had a lot of questions answered there, and I'm very happy with what I saw from Jackson, who I've got room for in my team to upgrade Pedro into Jackson, because I've actually got £4.9 million in the bank doing Salah into Foden. Foden is going to stay. There's a few people sort of wondering what to do about him, but we're going to see in a minute. The Fulham game is, there's going to be some big returns in that one, I think. And he's had his rest now, you could argue. I would be surprised if Foden doesn't make the starting 11 this weekend. So then the other person who's on the chopping block is, of course, Rashford. Many of you will know from last week that I was very much in a position of he gets one more go against Forest, and even if he gets me something, it doesn't matter. I think I'm going to be moving him on because I really want to get to Maddison. So I do think I'm probably going to do at least 2 transfers this week. I need to work out what I'm going to do with Gabriel, because I do think he's going to go down in price again this week. Recording this on Tuesday and it's going out on Wednesday, so if he's changed in price again, then obviously you'll already know that. So I've got to think about him, and I'm not averse to spending a -4 to change those 3 players. And I quite like the look of Destiny Udogie at Spurs. Spurs' fixtures looking quite nice over the next couple of game weeks. The only thing that's maybe stopping me is, do I want to give myself more benching headaches? I've already had Anderson punish me a couple of times this season. I'm not unhappy playing Estupiñán this week, I guess. I'd be quite nervous benching him. I don't think Brighton will keep a clean sheet, and we'll see why in a second, but I do think he still has that attacking potential. So it's a bit of a difficult decision what I do with that third transfer, and of course that would be for a -4. The priority is Rashford to Maddison, Pedro to Jackson. I think that's quite a sensible thing to do, really, and I'm very happy with the rest of the team. Flecken at home against Bournemouth over Turner away against Chelsea is an easy one. Whilst Cash has looked good so far, I do think that Aston Villa will concede against Liverpool, so he's my first sub. I just think that Anderson has a greater chance of outperforming him. Maybe I could put Cash in for Estupiñán. I need to have a real think over the next couple of days. Estupiñán is probably my biggest decision in the 11, and in terms of whether or not I start him. And if I feel like I don't want to, then maybe I feel it's worth spending the -4 to do Gabriel to Destiny Udogie. So they're the things I'm looking at. Let us know in the comments what you're thinking of with your team, and I'm happy to jump in and see if I can help. And of course, if your team's very similar to mine, then let's compare notes and let's see what we feel is the best way forward for game week 4. Now, I promised a little bit of analysis from the members area that kind of fuels some of those decisions. So I'm starting off here with the season ticker, now sorted from game weeks 4 to 9. I always like to look at the next 6. I'm a big fan of that. These are the 6 best teams for fixtures in terms of overall difficulty. Now, you can also sort the season ticker by attacking potential only, defensive potential only. You can sort it by home versus away. You can also sort it by rotation. If you've got a team that you'd like to have some players for, but you don't like all of their fixtures over a period, you can click on them, hit sort by rotation, and then it will sort all the way to the top the teams whose fixtures plug in like a jigsaw puzzle with the fixtures that you do and don't like for the team that you're looking at. So there are all the things you can do with the season ticker. I've just got the very basic vanilla version of it up on the screen right now. The 6 best teams for overall fixture difficulty in the next 6 matches. And Luton are actually top of it right now. But as you can probably imagine, I've not seen enough from the Hatters yet to warrant much investment. Now, of course, Chelsea, second best here, which is why I'm very happy to be getting Jackson this week. Like many, I just wanted to see how their attack would settle in a game where they were favourites to win. And of course, the stats that you were going to see in a minute from Jackson are encouraging enough. for me to go for him. And of course, I've still got Chilwell. Do I want to triple up? Not really. Forest at home is a good fixture, but Forest are better this year than they were last year, and also better than many people think. Bournemouth away, again, that's a positive fixture, but Bournemouth again still capable of springing the odd surprise, I think, especially with this new manager. Aston Villa at home, again, is a good fixture, but not a great fixture. But Fulham away, Burnley away, 7 and 8, they're great, fantastic fixtures. And then it's worth pointing out, actually, game week 9 is when Chelsea's fixtures really drop off a cliff. That's when they host Arsenal. So really, I'm looking at Jackson for the next 5 weeks, and then probably switching to a Newcastle attacker in game week 9. Might be playing my wild card then. But as I said, my sort of assessment of those fixtures is they're good. Are they great enough for me to have 2 Chelsea attackers? Probably not. Newcastle are rising up the fixture ticker, which we've seen that coming from the start of the season. We've all got our eye on the tune to see who we're going to get. Still a little bit tricky because you've got a lot of players who are going to play 70 minutes and get replaced with a like-for-like guy around that time, who will then also get you something. It's a not yet for Newcastle. They are rising to the top because game week 6 to 9 on this ticker look really nice for them. Game week 4 and 5 not so attractive. Away at Brighton, at home against Brentford, 2 very informed teams there. Game week 6 away to Sheffield United, home to Burnley, away to West Ham, home to Crystal Palace. It's game week 6. I really want to make sure I've got a bit of a Newcastle contingent in place. Now, I've talked about Destiny Udogie. And when you look at the Spurs fixtures on this, it's definitely very, very compelling to have a Spurs defender. For game weeks 4 to 9. To be honest, Maddison is a bit of an auto include at this point, but in terms of that additional investment. Wow, look at these fixtures, especially from a defensive perspective. Burnley away, just the 1 goal for the Clarets so far. Sheffield United at home, they've not really troubled too many teams in an offensive sense. They were very, very hard to break down for City in game week 3, but it's very much a situational sort of thing. I can't see them troubling the Spurs defence in game week 5. It's worth pointing out, as much as we were concerned about the Spurs clean sheet at the start of the season with this new chaos attacking football from Postecoglou, 2 clean sheets in their first 3. So it's not looking bad for a Spurs defender. Now, as I said, benching headaches are plenty, right, already. Do I really want to add some more? Well, actually, when you look at Spurs' fixtures, game week 6 and 7, do I really want to start my Spurs defender away at Arsenal at home to Liverpool? Not really. And so, maybe getting Udogie is not the worst thing in the world to start him for game week 4 and 5, bench him for 6 and 7, and then game week 8 and 9, Luton away, Fulham at home. Again, perfect fixtures for a Spurs clean sheet. So that's probably what I would do if I eventually decide I am going to get Udogie. So that's what I'm looking at with them. It's worth pointing out that Liverpool and Manchester United complete the top 6 on the season ticker. There's going to be a point when I'm going to want to reinvest in Liverpool. It probably isn't now. It's probably going to be game week 9 when they face Everton. Another reason why that's when I'm considering a wild card. And Man United, their fixtures, once they've got Arsenal and Brighton out of the way, it's entirely possible that when we get Burnley away, Crystal Palace at home, Brentford at home, Sheffield United away, might maybe look at Bruno Fernandes. So it's worth keeping those teams at the back of your mind as you plan for the next couple of weeks. Now, I promised some investigation into some defences, for example. Now, City this week, this is one of the reasons why you hold Foden. Even if he's coming on as a substitute, he should get you something against Fulham, because so far, after 3 matches, Fulham have conceded the highest number of big chances in the Premier League so far with 14. Now, interestingly enough, the team that has conceded the second most is actually Brighton. So we've obviously been banging on about how good Estupiñán is, and I still think that he offers a lot of offensive potential. But if there was one week where maybe there's an excuse to bench him, or maybe even sell him if you just want to play upside, I think maybe a game against Newcastle is one to go for, just simply because this could be very high scoring, and Estupiñán is going to have to work very, very hard at the other end of the field in order to counteract the fact that Brighton may well concede a quite large number of goals to Newcastle, who can score goals. Wolves, Luton and Aston Villa complete the bottom 5 for those teams that are sort of vying to be whipping boys at the moment. So Crystal Palace playing Wolves this week has got me quite excited about the possibility of an Anderson goal against Wolves as well. Will I be shown mercy by Anderson after benching him last week? Surely I'm making the right decision this week by starting him, especially when we look at how obliging the Wolves' defence has been thus far. It's worth pointing out Aston Villa are still in the bottom 5 for this, but they did concede, I think it was 9 big chances, a very large amount of big chances in just one game against Newcastle. A little bit of a freak result when you consider the injury that Mings had at half-time, or just before half-time. The Liverpool game, of course, we expect Liverpool to get some goals here. So, as I said, that's one of the reasons why I think that I'm probably going to bench Cash this week because there's just that possibility of going up against a high-performing attack. That's when they're not going to keep a clean sheet. So far, clean sheet against Everton for Villa, but did concede at Burnley. So worth bearing that in mind, Cash owners, or maybe people who don't own Cash who want to jump there quickly. I'd wait till this Liverpool game's out of the way. So let's have a look at the creators so far in the Premier League after 3 game weeks, and some interesting people here. As I said, Foden still very up there as a creative force in the Premier League. 11 key passes in the first 3 game weeks. That ranks the 3rd most in the Premier League, and of course that's even when you factor in the fact that he didn't play all that much against Sheffield United. So when he does come back into the team against this Fulham side that's very, very obliging, I would be expecting big returns from him. Entirely possible we get the same out of Alvarez as well. He's actually the most creative City player so far with 12 key passes. But when you look at those numbers, 270 minutes for Alvarez, 191 for Foden, it does mean Foden has a superior minutes per chance created than his colleague. Interestingly enough, Gross is top of the league for key passes, which means that he's ahead of his Brighton counterparts such as Mitoma and Estupinian. But it is worth pointing out Mitoma's creative output at this particular point in time, because at the end of last season especially, he was very much just a volume shooter. Didn't offer that much in the way of creativity, but he's kind of the other way around now. He's not shooting as often as he was last season. He is putting up a lot of creativity. He's got a few assists so far this season, and that is coming from what looks to be some relatively sustainable creativity numbers. And of course, I've already mentioned Bruno Fernandes and James Maddison. They are very much in the upper echelons of the key passes. There is another stat that I do like to assess the quality of chances that have been created. That's big chances created. So if you want to have a look at which of those players are creating higher quality chances, head to the Fantasy Football Scout members area and you should get a good look at that. But there's a lot of players in there who are definitely on my watch list. Now, I talked about Jackson at Chelsea because he's probably going to be who I bring in for Pedro this week, and it's this particular table here, the shots in the box table, which is one of my favourite tables in the Fantasy Football Scout members area. It really helps illustrate who is trying their absolute hardest to be a goal machine. And of course, we'll look at some accuracy in a minute because it doesn't always exactly work out along the lines of shooting lots, therefore will score lots. It doesn't necessarily always work that way, but it's nice to see that Jackson is so persistent in the penalty box. 10 shots in the box for him so far. Only Visser, Edouard and Haaland have more than him after the first 3 game weeks. And of course, that does mean he is the most persistent shooter in the Chelsea team when it comes to shots in the box. So I know there's a lot of interest in Sterling this week. I don't think he's a bad option. I think anyone who goes with him is probably going to be duly rewarded. At the moment, for my team, it's hard to justify moving to him specifically because of what I've got available. I've got one midfielder that I want to sell for game week 4, and that's Rashford. And if you think about it, Maddison is more important to get than Sterling on the basis that there isn't really a forward at Spurs who could be an alternative to Maddison. Because if you think about it, if you want to get a Spurs midfielder, if you want to get a Spurs attacker and a Chelsea attacker, your options are Sterling and Spurs forward, of which there isn't really one, or you get Jackson and a Spurs midfielder, of which there are a couple of other choices. Son and Richarlison probably in the conversation, but not in any real sense. Maddison is the clear first choice of the Spurs attackers. So that's the way round to do it. And just as I said, confirmation for Jackson is that he is the most persistent shooter, which is encouraging for me, bearing in mind that he's who I'm looking at this week. Now, in terms of the accuracy, thankfully enough, Jackson is offering a decent amount. So 5 shots on target after the first 3 game weeks. Only Solly March and Erling Haaland have more than him. So he is not only the most persistent shooter in the box for Chelsea, he is also the guy with the highest number of shots on target as well, which is also really good to see. 5 big chances as well. So the quality of those chances are good. So for this run of games, I'm expecting some good returns from Jackson, and as these numbers look largely sustainable as well. In terms of other accurate players, obviously Haaland is right up there. It's worth pointing out again that Solly March is having a good start to the campaign. Him and Mitoma seem to have swapped roles. Last season it was very much March was the creator, Mitoma was the goal scorer. And this time around, we've already looked at Mitoma's numbers. Lots of creativity, less goal threat than last season anyway, because we've got players such as Ferguson, Gross with more shots on target than Mitoma. But it is March who looks like the one who is getting the biggest chances. 3 big chances for him, which is joint most in amongst all Brighton players, and he is ahead of all of them for shots on target. Visser still very much up there for accuracy as well. Alvarez as well. Bowen, if anyone's looking at West Ham's fixtures, these are the players that are doing quite well for accuracy so far. Moussa Diaby, He's had a big game week this week, of course. I'm looking at benching Cash, but I should just point out I've not got any concerns about bringing Diaby back into game week 4 and not benching him or anything like that, simply because he's having a good start to the season. He's created 3 big chances so far, which is a good number of big chances created. That's joint best in the league so far. And then his 5 shots on target, that's the joint third best. Not so many in the way of big chances, but he's a good finisher because he's getting these shots on target, even if they're not necessarily a big chance. That shows a player of quality, and I think against this Liverpool defence, he is going to have a good time. So that's how my team is looking for Game Week 4 for the moment. I will let you guys know when my transfers are being made, and of course we'll have a deadline stream later in the week, and you may well see those transfers happen live. But of course I will be keeping an eye on the price changes as well. All sorts of content going out this week. Make sure that you've liked this video if you found it helpful. Subscribe to the Fantasy Football Scout YouTube channel, and of course hit that bell notification so you don't miss a single thing on the channel. And of course, if you're listening on a podcast platform as well, make sure you are subscribed for exactly the same reason, so you don't miss a thing. Well, with that, I will leave you fine folks to enjoy the rest of your FPL tinkering, and I will see you next time.